What's up? Welcome back. It's me, Mr. Carter. Hope you're having a great day. Hope everything's going well for you. And we're back at it with another video for you. You guys know the drill. Make sure to smash the like button. Hit the subscribe. You know, I'm trying to grow this channel. I'm trying to blow up. And frankly, some of y'all are not helping me. I need those likes. I need those comments. Make them polite. Maybe I'll start a Patreon. Join my Patreon. No, but in all seriousness, hope you guys are doing well. Hope you're having a good day. And we're going to go ahead and get straight into it. Yesterday, we started talking about kind of JFK and his relationship with the CIA. We're going full into it today. Remember that really in the early 1960s, the main target, obviously besides the Soviet Union, but the main target, the most problematic person in the world for America was Fidel Castro. The reason is that Cuba is so close to the United States, and America didn't want a communist nation in the Western Hemisphere, and so this was like very dangerous. If Cuba got nuclear weapons, it would have been catastrophic. And so really the only solution they can think of is, well, they can't negotiate with him. He doesn't trust America, which, honestly, understandable. So what do? Well, you gotta just you gotta take him out. That seems like the most rational thing to do. Kennedy, before immediately just trying to kill Fidel, he's like, let's try to overthrow Fidel. Okay, well, I want you to just kind of mentally note something. This is something that's going to come up quite a lot. Whenever the United States doesn't like a ruler, we just assume that because we don't like them, nobody likes them. But that's not always true. So, for example, just later down the road, we do the same thing in Vietnam. We go in, we put in this capitalist leader in Vietnam, and we like him, so we assume everyone else likes him, but that's not the case. Fidel actually has support. There's not enough people at the time, in 1961, to warrant this kind of overthrowing of Fidel Castro. But America's just like, well, why would anyone want to live with Fidel? Why would anyone want to be communist? Obviously, we're so much better, so let's just go in there and try to incite a little revolution. But here's the key. The CIA and Kennedy want to make sure that they have what's called plausible deniability, meaning if, these guys get caught or it fails, they can go, well, we didn't know. We weren't the ones that sent them. Does that make sense? It's supposed to be a secret operation. It is about the least secret operation possible. Like, they do a terrible job, frankly. The CIA does a horrible job at this. It's pretty comedic, like you just look at it and it's just such a catastrophe that you're like, how in the world did this get off the ground? Let's get into it. So I want you to write down in your notes, 1961 Bay of Pigs invasion. That's what this event was called, the Bay of Pigs, 1961. Okay, here's the plan. All right, the Central Intelligence Agency is tasked with overthrowing Fidel Castro, but doing so in a manner that does not require U.S. military to put boots on the ground. It does not require the U.S. Air Force to come in there. Basically, you make it look like someone else overthrew him, and America reaps all the benefits from that, okay? It's a very sneaky operation, but it's tricky. All right, so here's the idea. When Fidel took over, there were many Cuban people that fled to Miami. Not just Miami, but really Florida. Okay, Florida has a huge Cuban influence. When Fidel took over and the previous leader fell, there were many people that fled from Cuba because they didn't want to be communist, and a lot of them settled in Florida. These are people that already don't like Fidel. They speak Spanish. Okay, so they are the perfect people to kind of train to infiltrate back into Cuba. So here's the plan. All right, I want you to write this down. CIA plans to train Cuban refugees to take over Cuba. Okay? CIA plans to train Cuban refugees to take over Cuba. Okay. It's meant to make it look like a civil war kind of thing. But, like, where are they coming from? Like, where are the refugees going to come from? Obviously, they're going to come from America. And so Fidel's not dumb. He's going to, the second that he sees these guys, he's going to be like, that's weird. They got dropped out of an American plane. They're using American military gear. I wonder who trained them. It's really stupid. Honestly, it's like a really dumb idea. But they're going to go along with it. And so they go into Miami, and they begin to kind of track down these people, namely Miami, not just Miami, but mostly Miami. They track down these guys that left Cuba, all right, because they hate communism. And they offer them a deal. They say, hey, if you manage to commit to this operation, we'll give you like citizenship, we'll do all these things for you, and we'll give you all this money. You'll have like, basically we'll set you up. You'll have a really good life. Look, these guys are not rich. A lot of these guys are pretty down on their luck. They're immigrants, okay, in the 1960s. So this is not a totally unappealing thing. Also, a lot of them want to liberate their country from the communists. Okay, just tracking? This making sense? So they take all of these guys, 1,500 Cuban refugees. The CIA enlists them, gives them new names, and they train them over the course of 4 months. Now, everybody, that's not really that long of a time, okay? Basically, they're training them for 4 months in espionage, firearms. They're turning them into like guerrilla fighters. And their plan is they're going to airdrop them into Cuba in the dead of night, and they are going to make their way through the Cuban jungle towards Fidel's compound. They're going to arrest Fidel. America's going to come in, put him on trial, and then basically put who they want in Cuba in power. Okay. This is heavily reliant on, like, if they're dropped in the right place, if these guys know where they're going. I'm going to go ahead and spoil it for you. Are they dropped in the right place? No. They actually get airdropped in the complete wrong area. They get airdropped into the Bay of Pigs, which is not where they were supposed to be. It was a more heavily armed part of Cuba. Also, it was a swamp. So they basically get airdropped into muck. Okay? 1,500 of them, by the way. Also, the plane that drops them is painted to look like a Cuban plane, but it's an American-made plane. So everyone's like looking up like, that's not a Cuban plane. And the CIA is like, it is. It's really dumb. All these guys get airdropped out. They land dead of night. But here's the thing. Fidel already knew that the attack was going to happen. He knew weeks before. Because he has spies everywhere. The Soviet Union has spies. And they go, hey, bro, look. They're trying to do this weird thing where they're like dropping a bunch of Cubans in there. And he's like, hey, listen. I ain't worried about it. All right. So, I want you to write down. CIA drops 1,500 Cuban refugees onto the island. CIA drops 1,500 Cuban refugees onto the island. I'll give you a second to write that down. All right. So, a couple things go wrong. Number one, the Cuban Air Force is totally untouched. So once the planes start flying over, bombs are going off. They're trying to defend their homeland, which makes sense. Okay. Also, the second that they land, they try to kind of stir up this uprising. No one joins in. Like, no one really wants to get rid of him. They just had an uprising to get rid of the last guy. And so there's not really this huge motivation. So now the CIA has trained these guys for 4 months, and they've dropped them in the middle of the jungle and just abandoned them. Not good. Not good at all. Okay? Not only that, but because Kennedy is trying to not start World War III, he's not using any American air support. He's not sending in American military personnel. So again, these guys are just stuck there. And the CIA's like, oh, we need to send in the planes. And Kennedy's like, do you realize if we do that, we could start World War III? I'm like, well, Mr. President, these people are going to die. And he's like, then they might die. It seems cold, but it's like, do you either sacrifice 1,500 lives or risk billions of lives? In his book, it was like, you got to risk those 1,500 men. All right. So, in 3 days, I want you to write this down. The entire operation fails in 3 days. They drop these guys into the middle of the jungle. This 1,500-man squad is arrested. What happens to them? Well, this is an interesting story. Some of them are killed. Some of them go to prison. And some of them are just allowed to stick around. They're like, hey, do you want to just stop trying to kill us, please? Do you want to stop trying to not be communist? Just settle down, man. All right, just try it out and you'll like it. Look, when you're faced with death, a lot of them are just going to go, okay. And the CIA just kind of goes, okay, see you later. We kind of abandon them. And of course, a lot of the Cubans are like, the CIA trained us. And we're like, who are you? We don't even know who you are. Fidel's not an idiot. He knows exactly what's going on. This is just the first in a line of like 800 different attempts on his life. Kennedy is furious. So I want you to write this down. Kennedy will no longer trust the CIA. He hates them. He thinks they're morons. He thinks they're inefficient. He actively tries to get rid of the CIA because he thinks they're so dangerous. He really might have been onto something. There are elements of the CIA that are great, as you know, like I'm very interested in the CIA, but let's be honest. It's an organization full of spies. How trustworthy are they going to be? Not very trustworthy. Also, they completely bungled this operation. It's terrible. America looks like morons, frankly. They couldn't even take out Fidel, one guy. So JFK's looking at the CIA like, well, why do we even have you around? Why do we even keep you around? All right. Again, this is all kind of brewing in this idea that, like, how far, should we have this organization that operates kind of without control? Because at this point, they have not had the leash on them, and Kennedy's actively trying to put the leash on them. And of course, are they going to like that? No, they don't like the oversight. And then, 2 years later, JFK is dead. I don't know if the CIA killed him or not. We'll never know that. But it is interesting that they may have had evidence to suggest that he might be assassinated, and obviously either they tried to do something and it didn't work to save him, or they just allowed it to happen. We won't know. But it is interesting in the context of the Cold War, what's going on. Okay, hope this is all making sense. It's quite the messy operation. All right, so now what this leads to, we're going to start talking about, besides bungling operations, what else is the CIA doing? All right, so I want you to write down underneath your note about JFK not trusting them. The CIA resumes MK Ultra experiments. CIA resumes MK Ultra experiments. Basically, this is their attempt to create soldiers. It's kind of like really badly explained. Part of it is they want to create people that can read minds. This is all real, by the way. I'm not making this up. But they also wanted to create like a soldier that could be brainwashed into not remembering that he's a soldier. So if you've seen Captain America, those movies, you think about like the Winter Soldier. He's the perfect example where it's like he's a normal guy, and then these words are said to him and he activates, and you give him a target and he completes the target and he can kill whoever he's given to kill, and then he forgets that he ever did it. So he's the perfect like soldier. He's the perfect spy, perfect assassin. That's what MK Ultra is. The problem is they're going to go through all different methods to put people in a like suggestible state. So I think we've already talked about this a little bit, but they create LSD, also known as acid. And really what it is it's a hallucinogenic drug, okay? It's typically, I think back then it was like a liquid. It's like a tablet sometimes, but basically it's an intense hallucinogenic, but it was created with the purpose of like putting people in a suggestible state where you can like alter their mind. It definitely alters their mind. It does not turn them into a super soldier. So they begin to try other things. So I want you to write this down. CIA gives people LSD and marijuana. Those are the two drugs that they use. Now, if you know anything about marijuana, it's kind of comedic to think about someone becoming a super soldier on marijuana, because it does completely the opposite. It makes them extremely sleepy most of the time. So let me ask you a question. You've got a bunch of guys who have no government oversight, or limited, okay? They're in the government. Do they really think that marijuana is going to give people mind powers? They're not dumb. So why are they doing it? And by the way, let me just say something. They are not just giving it to random people. They are doing that. They are also doing it. So really what this is it's a bunch of guys who clock in at the office and get high, and then, well, this is for national security. It's ridiculous. And JFK's like, do you know how much taxpayer money is being used to fund this? What are you trying to do? Like, are we trying to win the war? And he'll go down there and it's just a bunch of people like hiding marijuana cigarettes. And you're like, what is the point of this? Not only that, but they begin to do all kinds of stuff that in the name of national security. They give LSD to a dolphin. Why? They're like, well, maybe the dolphin will gain mind powers. It's moronic. They give LSD and cocaine to an orangutan. Guess what? He freaks out. Okay, who would have guessed? And they're like, I'm going to record this. Interesting. I truly believe that because they had no rules, they had no oversight, they're just doing whatever they want. I think they just wake up and they're like, well, it's all in the name of national security, but I wonder what would happen if we did this. Crazy stuff, man. And this was taxpayer money being used to fund this. What's interesting too is that LSD begins to kind of slip out into the public. Accidental? Purposeful? I don't know. That is totally up for debate, but it is interesting. It's created by the CIA, put people in a suggestible state. And then, of course, the hippies come along and they're like, this is cool, man, which it's not. And the hippies, by the way, today in our culture, the hippies are like, they're all about like peace and love, which they were. But let me ask you this. You ever seen like hippies protest, like really like back in the 60s? You know how they protested? They just sang songs, which I love music, and they did drugs, and they didn't bathe, and they slept around. What are they changing? Nothing. That's why most people in the 60s hated the hippies, because they're annoying. Like, you just stop the war, man. Stop the war. And they're like, okay, well, what do you suggest instead? And they're like, I don't know. Just peace, man. It's like, you're not helping. The hippies are completely pointless. I think their culture's, well, I don't like the drugs, but their music's cool. Some of the fashion's cool. But, I mean, they weren't, like, changing the world. You know what I mean? I think we have, like, this romanticized idea of them. They definitely weren't. And also the people that were, like, real hippies, 10 years later, have, like, mental problems because they just took a bunch of drugs and fried their brains. And they're just like, So, not glamorous. Not glamorous. Okay. Ending my rant there. Fascinating stuff, man. CIA, Bay of Pigs, drugs, bad, but important for modern history, actually. I mean, it's completely reshaped our culture, unfortunately. We are 100%, and a drug culture, which is sad. But it's got to come from somewhere. Where does it come from? All right, I'm going to stop talking, and I will let you guys work on whatever you need to work on. I'm looking forward to seeing you, and hope you have a great week. I'll see you later. Peace.